Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, retired NYPD Sergeant Bill Cannon, a 27-year veteran of the NYPD. How's everyone doing this afternoon? So cold out. I came back from Florida yesterday. I got off that plane, and that 32-degree temperature hit me with the wind, and I was like, whoa. I wanted to turn around and get back on the plane and head back to Florida. Anyway, I'm back in New York, and back in New York also is this man, Luigi Mangione, in hearings. Lots of hearings, right? And what are his attorneys arguing over? What do they mean to get thrown out? And will they be successful? Many parts of this case may hinge upon that. How his defense attorneys handle this, right? The real fight over the fate of accused CEO killer Luigi Mangione isn't happening in front of a jury. These are hearings. It's happening right now behind closed doors in a series of intense legal showdowns. We're now nearly a year past the shocking early morning assassination of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, and the road to trial is proving to be incredibly complicated. In early December 2025, Mangione has appeared in court, and he's in court again today, for critical pretrial hearings that could decide the case before it even begins. His lawyers have launched an aggressive, multi-pronged attack on the very foundation of the prosecution's case. And what is their argument? That police made fundamental constitutional errors during his arrest. And because of that, the most damning evidence, the alleged murder weapon, and his infamous diary that became known as the Manifesto, should be thrown out completely, according to the defense. And make no mistake, this is a high-stakes gamble. If the defense succeeds, the case against Luigi Mangione could be turned on its head. If they fail, prosecutors will walk into trial holding a mountain of evidence. Today, we're going to break down some of that evidence in the defense's playbook and the prosecution's counterattack, and what it all means, one of the most polarizing cases in recent American history. You know, this case, because so many people really are against the healthcare system in this country, many felt that he was righteous and just in shooting and killing the CEO of United Healthcare, Brian Thompson. Many people in this country from both sides of the aisle, Republican, Democrat, independents, think that our healthcare system is really bad and it's unfair, and healthcare companies, insurance companies frequently turn down claims. People can't see doctors in a timely fashion. All of that is part of our healthcare system. And that very system is the system that this man, Luigi Mangione, who you see a picture and a thumbnail on the screen with Mark Agnifilo. That's Mark Agnifilo on the screen with him. And Mark Agnifilo and his wife, Karen Friedman Agnifilo, are the two senior attorneys in this case. It is their law firm, and there are many other attorneys. This is $1 million defense that Luigi Mangione is going to have largely paid for by the public based on them sending him money in regards. This is some of the issues of Mangione in court today in regards to these hearings.
The man charged with the killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in Midtown almost a year ago to the day.
Mangione is back in court in Lower Manhattan for the second day of a crucial hearing.
It could determine what evidence is allowed in the case against him. Joining us now with more is ABC's Aaron Katersky. Aaron, thank you. A very, very busy morning ahead for you. Walk us through what's happened so far in court. What new information came out that was so pivotal?
Yeah, Charlene, Pedro, Brittany, good to see you guys from 100 Center Street, where Luigi Mangione is back in for a second day of his evidence suppression hearing, trying to get certain items thrown out, trying to get certain statements that the accused killer of United Healthcare Chief Brian Thompson made to authorities after his arrest. That includes a couple of correction officers from Pennsylvania who testified they had casual conversations with Mangione. One said he talked about carrying a 3D printed gun, which prosecutors say was the murder weapon found in his backpack.
You know, if these casual conversations occurred with members of law enforcement without there being questioning, then it has been ruled in case law that those statements are good. They're okay, because I gave you the little algorithm for when Miranda is necessary, and that's in custody means you're under arrest, you are not free to go. In custody plus interrogation. So the person who is in custody under arrest, not free to leave, must be the subject of interrogation. So in custody plus interrogation equals Miranda warnings, that the person being charged must be read and waive Miranda warnings. So casual conversations, if this is in fact what Luigi Mangione was doing, just having a casual conversation with a member of law enforcement, there's a very good chance that the evidence garnered through that casual conversation will be allowed and not suppressed. Because what do we have? We don't have the necessity for Miranda to be under effect if he wasn't in custody, and second part, he wasn't being interrogated. So that is up to the judge. And there's also just as good a chance that the judge may think that the law enforcement officers were using this as a guise to get information, and that therefore the questioning and the conversation equaled an interrogation. That is all up to the judge. There's lots of case law on this. Very interesting topic. So anyway, folks, hold on to your hats. Hold on to your loved ones. You're about to enter true crime from a police perspective. You're about to enter the off-the-cuff zone, the police off-the-cuff zone. There has to be some common sense.
They were the ones who called 911 to get him help, and now they're calling for change.
Folks, we're going to go back right now to Aaron Katursky from ABC News.
Another correction officer said Mangione talked to him about health care and the differences between private insurance and nationalized health care. And I think the goal from prosecutors is to suggest that Mangione had these voluntary conversations, so all of his statements then should be admitted into evidence. The defense has a much different view, arguing that the authorities never properly read him his Miranda rights.
So what does this mean for the case going forward?
We're about to see what evidence, what statements, Pedro, the judge is willing to allow or not. That's the whole purpose of this hearing and why prosecutors are calling so many witnesses, I think, to lay a foundation to say all this evidence can properly be tied to Luigi Mangione, even as the defense is arguing that the statements were made in violation of Mangione's rights to remain silent, to have an attorney present, and his backpack was seized and searched without a proper warrant.
I'd like to mention that now. I think that all the broadcast news stations, they jump on this. The backpack was grabbed and seized without a warrant. I have mentioned numerous times, all right, it would be ludicrous for police officers across this nation doing a dangerous stop, question and frisk of a defendant who has been identified by a manager at McDonald's as looking like the defendant from New York who shot and killed Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare. Now, if in fact this is the shooter of the CEO of United Healthcare, he is armed, isn't he? And there's a very good chance that he has that firearm on him or in his lungible area, which in this instance was inside a backpack. So the law of arrest says search incidental to lawful arrest. If in fact this is a lawful arrest, which I believe it is, the police officers may seize and search the body of the defendant and his lungeable area without a search warrant. How ludicrous would it be if an officer on the street stopping someone for suspicion of having a firearm would have to wait to get a search warrant and put his life and the life of other police officers in danger while the defendant had a loaded firearm inside his backpack? So that is part of this issue. And I know the media always jumps on it. They searched it without a warrant. Well, what do you think police officers do in every city, every state in this country, every single night of the week when they stop, question, and frisk for a firearm? And it is done and is legit, and case law will define that. So what is the judge going to rule on this? You know something? Stranger things have happened, but I think clearly the officers in Altoona, Pennsylvania acted correctly. May there be some statements thrown out? Absolutely. Will he throw out the firearm? They're very, very doubtful. Will he throw out the manifesto in his diary? I don't think so either. But you know something? I've been wrong before and I'll be wrong again. Let's go back to Aaron Katursky right here.
Ben says if the backpack goes, the contents of it, that means no notebook, where Mangione's writings, prosecutors say, amounted to a confession, and no gun, no murder weapon that police said was also seized from the bag.
And Aaron, will this have any effect on Mangione's federal case?
It may indirectly, Brittany, because, of course, this is all about the state case where Mangione's pleaded not guilty to second-degree murder charges. He's also pleaded not guilty in the federal case, and you can expect his attorneys to try to make some of the same arguments to exclude evidence there. The standards may be a bit different, but the defense is certainly hoping some of the same thing applies. When he was arrested in Pennsylvania at that McDonald's, the defense says he was not read his rights. He was not, that the officers did not have a warrant to search the bag. And that applies whether it's the state case or the federal case, according to the defense.
Okay, so before you go, Aaron, walk us through what's going to happen this morning and what will happen next after this hearing.
More witnesses, more officers who interacted with Luigi Mangione after his arrest in Pennsylvania. We may learn new statements. We didn't know that Mangione talked about health care, according to the correction officer, or talked about carrying a 3D printed gun, according to another officer. We also heard for the first time the 911 call that was the catalyst for getting him arrested in Pennsylvania, when the manager of the McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, said her customers noticed the bushy eyebrows and said he looks like the CEO killer in New York. And you could hear her tone where she's almost giggling, but also a little bit nervous, as she said her customers became concerned that there might be a killer in their midst.
So with that description and the 911 caller say he looks like the shooter from New York of the CEO of United Healthcare, Brian Thompson. Upon arrival, the police have reasonable suspicion. You know, we talk about the ladder of suspicion. And the ladder of suspicion, there's 3 rungs to it. Mere suspicion, which gives an officer the right to go up and speak with someone. He always has the common law right of inquiry. And the second level on the rung of that ladder is reasonable suspicion. Reasonable suspicion gives the officer the right to stop, question, and frisk. A pat down of the outer garments. And if it develops even within that stop, that probable cause, that is the third rung of the ladder of suspicion, and that is the arrest phase. Now they develop probable cause. Is it reasonable, anyone listening today, for the officer to take that backpack away from his, either if it was near his body or his lungeable area, in order to protect himself and other officers? Because there was, in fact, in this case, a firearm used to shoot and kill the CEO of United Healthcare, Brian Thompson. Is there a possibility that that same firearm could be used on this scene to shoot and kill one of these officers. Absolutely. Absolutely. Therefore, is it reasonable and lawful in the law of arrest, search incidental to lawful arrest, for the officers to take that backpack and search it minus a search warrant? Absolutely. 100% yes. That is the answer. So these attorneys, of course, Karen Friedman Ignifilo, outstanding attorney. She was the second in charge in the Manhattan DA's office when I was on the job. And her husband, Mark Ignifilo, excellent defense attorney, great track record, high-priced attorneys, and they have other lawyers that are representing Luigi Mangione. So they know what they're doing. But on the other side of the fence is 40-year prosecutor Joel Seidemann, who I've also had cases with. Outstanding, meticulous, very well-organized prosecutor, has been down this road before, has prosecuted big cases like this before. Go back to Aaron Katursky here.
And then we saw footage from the McDonald's surveillance camera. Mangione sitting calmly at a table, alleged to be Mangione, eating his McDonald's breakfast with officers coming and going, but no real concern on the part of the officers. One of the employees kept coming in and out of a broom closet. Patrons went to the restroom, and we're about to hear from Altoona police officers who said they searched Mangione because they feared he might have a bomb. Certainly didn't look like it on the footage that we saw that anybody was concerned there was any kind of an explosive.
Oh, very, very interesting stuff. I mean, we know that a lot of people have been captivated by this case. They're going to be watching what happens today, and we're glad that you're on top of it, Aaron Katursky.
Very interesting, of course. And these issues are quite interesting, because we see how the criminal justice system works. And if the judge throws out some of these pieces of evidence, that could really impact this trial to the point of, could Luigi Mangione beat this case? Doubtful. And I'm very doubtful that the judge will throw out any of this evidence. And now a word from our sponsor. FanDuel's got an offer you don't want to miss this NFL season. New customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet $5, and if it wins, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. You can build parlays, bet player props, ride the live lines, whatever your style. FanDuel has you covered. The NFL season is here. The only question is, are you ready to play? You must be 21 years or older and present in select states for Kansas and affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in DC, Kentucky, or Wyoming. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbookfanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut, or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 1-800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NEW YORK or text HOPE New York in New York. So this case isn't close to going to trial yet, but the prosecutor is bringing in witnesses from Pennsylvania to testify as to what they saw, what they heard, and what their actions were. So this is a hearing that has a huge effect on what we're going to hear when this case, and what the judge is going to allow once this case goes to trial. So both sides of this case, the defense and the prosecution, have lots to lose and lots to gain in this case. And as I said, both sides have very, very outstanding attorneys, both on the Manhattan DA's office, Joel Seidemann, 40-year prosecutor, and on the side of Luigi Mangione with Karen Friedman Ignifilo and her husband, Mark Ignifilo, and whatever other attorneys they have working in that law firm. This is Mangione arriving at court today.
Nearly 1 year after accused killer Luigi Mangione allegedly took his fatal shot, he's heading back to court ahead of what could be one of the most closely watched trials in decades. So closely watched that even a routine pretrial hearing is capturing attention. At the center of it, evidence from the moments he was captured inside a Pennsylvania McDonald's. The defense team arguing that Mangione was not read his Miranda rights right away, and that anything police learned in the roughly 17 minutes before then.
I just want to again repeat, the defense just said he wasn't read his Miranda rights right away. Okay. What little algorithm, what little theorem did I list? In custody plus interrogation equals Miranda. So the argument becomes, part of the argument becomes, at what point, at what time was Luigi Mangione in custody, not free to leave? When was he placed in handcuffs? And after he was placed under arrest, was he then interrogated? Because if he was interrogated, then Miranda applies. And it applies that for him to speak and make a statement to the police, he would have to waive Miranda and be willing to do so.
Should not be allowed in court. They're also arguing that the evidence collected from his backpack, including what police describe as a 3D printed gun and a so-called manifesto, should be thrown out since police didn't have a search warrant.
If you're a part of Luigi Mangione's defense team, is this a make or break moment for your case?
This is huge. And if you're part of Mangione's defense team, you need to try and get anything thrown out that is possible.
A judge approved a request from Mangione's legal team allowing him to appear in court in civilian clothing.
Part of the argument is that there is so much publicity that if he's in prison clothes, even during the pretrial hearings, that could taint the jury pool.
He'll be given 2 suits, 3 shirts, 3 pairs of pants, 5 pairs of socks, and 1 pair of shoes without laces. It's a far cry from his early court appearances in shackles, and a subtle reminder of the extraordinary public interest in the 27-year-old's murder trial. Ellison Barber, NBC News, New York.
Oh, pretty amazing, right? That this is a huge part of this case. This is the case to a large extent. How much will the judge allow in, and what will the judge suppress, if anything? If the judge finds that the police in Altoona, PA, acted lawfully, then he will allow everything. Could a 20-minute conversation in a Pennsylvania McDonald's completely unravel the case against accused CEO killer Luigi Mangione? His lawyers say yes. They argue police crossed a clear constitutional line by questioning him for nearly a half hour before ever reading him the Miranda rights, right? So, as I said before, what point was he not free to go? What point was he placed under arrest? And what point was he in custody? In custody plus interrogation equals Miranda. So if we know that as the police, do you think the defense knows that and the prosecution knows that? And absolutely the most important person in this case that knows that, the judge, because the judge's decision will carry huge bearing on how this case proceeds. So in that same window of time, that was the half hour they didn't read him as Miranda, they also searched his backpack without a warrant. And I maintain that is okay. Search incidental to lawful arrest. And searching that backpack without a warrant uncovered a gun and a diary that became the pillars of the state's case. Now his legal team is fighting to have all of it, every statement, every object, every piece of evidence from that encounter declared inadmissible. It's a legal doctrine known as the fruits of the poisonous tree, and it's the story of a legal war being waged in the shadows, a battle over constitutional rights that will define what a future is and is not allowed to see. The fruits of the poisonous tree, and anyone that's worked in law enforcement, anyone that's an attorney, simply means, it goes almost back to Adam and Eve times, right? The fruits of the poisonous tree simply mean evidence that has been collected illegally will be suppressed. It'll be thrown out. And that's where the term comes from, the fruits of the poisonous tree. You're not using fruit that you obtained through violating our client's rights, according to Karen Friedman Agnifilo and Mark Agnifilo, to use against him in a court of law, because our position is that you obtained this evidence illegally. Therefore, the judge in this case should throw this evidence out. So to really get what the legal fight's about, we have to rewind up to the early morning hours of December 4th, 2024. Brian Thompson, the 50-year-old CEO of United Healthcare, was walking into a Hilton hotel in Midtown Manhattan for an investor meeting. Surveillance video, which has since been played in court, shows a masked gunman approach him from behind, fire several shots, and then calmly walk away. The brazen killing sparked a massive 5-day manhunt. The NYPD blanketed the city and the internet with images of the suspect on a bike out of Starbucks checking into a hostel. The city was on edge. Then came the break. 5 days later, and hundreds of miles away in Altoona, Pennsylvania, a customer at a McDonald's recognized a man from the news, told the manager, and that manager placed a now famous 911 call. When police arrived, they found 27-year-old Luigi Mangione calmly eating breakfast. His arrest was quiet, but the legal storm that followed has been anything but. In his possession was a backpack, and what police found inside is now at the very center of this entire legal battle. And the first pillar of the defense's strategy is all about Mangione's Fifth Amendment rights. His lawyers, led by Karen Friedman Agnifilo, argued that police started interrogating Mangione the second they walked up to him, but waited a full 20 minutes before reading him his Miranda. So, again, in custody plus interrogation equals Miranda. Will the police and will the prosecution argue that in those first 20 minutes, the police were asking pedigree questions? The police were asking non-interrogation type questions. That's what the prosecution will say. And the defense will say, hogwash, that's an interrogation. They knew who he was. They knew they should have placed him under arrest right then. Instead, they were using this as an excuse to try to get a statement. That's what the defense is going to say. Is that the truth? Well, you can decide. The jury can decide. It's that whole thing. You watch a police show. You have the right to remain silent. This isn't just a formality. It's a constitutional shield designed to protect people from being forced to incriminate themselves. The defense claims that by questioning Mangione about who he was and why he'd been in New York before telling him his rights, police broke the law. According to court filings during that time, Mangione allegedly gave police a fake ID with the name Mark Rosario. Prosecutors want to use that as proof he knew he was guilty. But the defense says it's inadmissible because he said it during an improper pre-Miranda interrogation. These are great legal issues. These are great arguments for defense attorneys to make. And how the judge decides what happens in this case largely will decide a lot of how this case is prosecuted and, on the other side, how it is defended. So, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope I updated you to the present day on the Luigi Mangione interviews in the CEO murder of Brian Thompson, which happened tomorrow will be 1 year, 12/4/2024, of CEO Brian Thompson. Have a great day, everyone. I'm Bill Cannon from Police Off the Cuff. We'll see you tonight at 9. I'll be live with Phil Grimaldi and Professor Mike Geary. Have a great day, everyone.
One episode just ain't enough.